Welcome to today's Muskogee City Council special call meeting, February 19th. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Jamie Stout.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Patrick Hale.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
Item number 1.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of ordinance 4065A, rezoning the property located at 222 South 32nd Street, more particularly described in the ordinance, from C1 local commercial to C2 general commercial, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the official zoning map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
Ms. Callahan.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is a
And we're going to open the public hearing.
Thank you. Throws me off every time, too. This is a request to rezone the property that is located at 222 South 32nd. They are requesting to rezone from the C1 to the C2 General Commercial District, and the applicant is requesting to rezone this property in order to allow for more options for their lease of their building. The existing zoning and land use, the site is vacant. It is zone C1. To the north is zone C3. It is American Motel. To the south is zone C1, and it's Little Caesars Pizza Restaurant. To the east, and then to the northeast, which is behind the American Motel, is zoned R1, and it is our residential zoning classification. And to the west, across 69 32nd Street, is C1, and it is the former Okies Restaurant. Access to this particular piece of property is only from the Highway 69 32nd Street, and so there would not be any other access around there besides the 32nd Street. The comprehensive plan land use map does indicate this area is general commercial, and therefore this zoning request does comply with the future land use map and the comprehensive plan. Staff, Planning Commission, and Public Works recommended approval.
We have one person that has signed up to speak to this item, Mr. Donnie Eccles. If you would approach the microphone, give us your name and your address, and you have 5 minutes, sir.
Okay. Donnie Eccles at 2337 Fredonia. I represent Boston Avenue Baptist Church, 201 South 30th, which is the property that is behind the motel. We share a joint easement, and again, no offense to staff, planning, I'm sorry, that there is other access to that said property other than 32nd Street. We do know, as we have spoken before, there is an alleyway. I've had pictures. Were my pictures brought in from the last?
They could be.
Okay. I had shared pictures with the last one that there is access to that. And it happened to be as I was taking pictures for you that were not able to see those. There was a truck that actually drove through that alley when I was taking pictures. And there is access. A lot of foot traffic goes across our property. When I approached the truck, he drove across our lot and went through the alley to the house that is directly behind the property at 222 South 32nd. So to say that there's only access is highway or 32nd Street at this time is incorrect. There is a lot of foot traffic around that area. We have been discussing and we've been talking with the property owners. I do know, and I saw that just the other day, that utilities have been marked and there is a possibility of a fence. I haven't seen it yet, but they've told us that, and through her attorney, they're saying they're trying to get that fence. They've got approval from the motel to put a privacy fence across that utility easement. It's an abandoned utility easement. Am I correct in saying that? An alley. And that wouldn't stop any of the traffic, coming through our property. I have talked to Mr. Tucker, and there's a possibility of the city putting some barricades on our side of the property, too. And I'm thankful for the work that has been taking place. Deputy Chief Cotton came and shared with me that he took a 5-year study of all the calls. We had 35 calls in the 5-year study. We had 2 break-ins last year. We are dealing with this issue, and I believe that what is wanting to go into that facility, if you rezone it from a C1 to a C2, that it would be even more detrimental to our congregation, safety-wise. We have installed several different things. We've installed alarm systems. We have installed surveillance systems. Our vehicle's been broken into. We have gotten rid of some old storage buildings. Some of these things I've already shared with you. Some other things in regards to security. I've made a visit. I've already confessed it to the Lord and my congregation and my deacons. I made a tour to a couple of our dispensaries here in Muskogee, and I'm here to tell you the security in both of those. We have more security in our church than both of those put together. If you haven't taken a look at several of these, questions were even made. There was an 18-year-old young lady in one of these, and me and another individual, I'll keep him hidden, and we asked them specifically. They told us their entire security system, this 18-year-old girl. Went to another facility, 3 18-year-old boys selling this stuff. No protection. The first one, there were no cameras seen. And I just believe that it would be even more detrimental if we allowed this type of facility to go in that close to our church. I understand. I'm going to hurry. I got less than a minute. I understand the plight that you all have with this. I understand by voting against this rezoning would be sticking your neck out there. And I understand there's some issues, but we're also dealing with this in McAllister, El Reno, and Yukon. These are things that I've just heard about, whether it's the zoning issues with the medical marijuana, or I don't know if it's close to a church, but we're having some issues in other towns. I do know I've visited with our legislators. There is some House bills that are coming up. For some reason, being that close to a church, I'm not arguing the medical marijuana. That's law. What I am saying is my concern is for the protection of our congregation. Our church has been on that plot of land since 1939, and we're doing some things in that community that we are trying to improve. I'm sorry, I'm out of time.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we extend the pastor's time by 3 minutes.
Second that motion.
Got a motion and a second. Is that any comment? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston?
Yes.
Patrick Hale?
Yes.
Marlon Coleman?
Yes.
Wayne Johnson?
Yes.
Ivory Vance?
Yes.
Derek Reed?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Yes.
Jamie Stout? Mayor Coburn?
Yes, 3 minutes additional.
Thank you. I hope you guys know my heart. This has been my home all my life. And I've been the pastor of that church for 12 years. And I have the responsibility to protect my congregation. And I pray more than anything that you know my heart, my attitude in regards to this, that I'm not trying to tell you to do your job. You guys have done a fantastic job, and I'm proud of you that you've represented our city. But I think this is something that I believe that we've got to take a stand on. It's too close to a house of worship. And I'm asking you, I'm not telling you, I'm asking you, that before you make this decision, that you ask and you pray to your God and ask your God to give you a confidence, a clear conscience on what you should vote. And again, I just want you to know my heart, and I thank you for all you guys that have helped us. You've contacted us. You've tried to do some things. I'm willing to work with the lady that's having the property. Believe me, I'd like to see an ice cream shop there, Wayne. But even if it was an ice cream shop that did it on a cash basis, there would still be issues in that neighborhood that we've got to deal with security-wise. I think the legislation has not really, like I said, there's some bills that are coming up that may end up protecting us or requiring some of these to have a better security system. I understand the fence. I'm content with the fence and the barricade, but it's only a deterrent. You all know that as well as I do. It's only a deterrent of what could take place. And I have kids that play on that lot. And during Vacation Bible School, I shared before, your variance board voted in our favor because we made a plea to them with this. Our church is also looking at other things that we can do to protect our congregation. But I'm asking you to consider not rezoning this until our legislation and everything has got this all cleared up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's the only person that had signed up to speak. Is there questions for Mr. Eccles, or is there questions that we want to answer further?
Well, I'd like to make a comment. First, Pastor, I'm on the east side of Muskogee. My constituents are, so I don't hear from a lot of people on the other side of town necessarily. But I've got to tell you, I've had a few calls over the past week, and 2 of those people said that you were a class act. That's how they described you. Well, I agree with them wholeheartedly.
Thank you, sir.
You are a class act. And naturally, they said other nice things.
Way too kind.
I don't know that they were. And these are rebel rousers like myself. And I want to thank your congregation for showing support and being reasonable and praying that the outcome is the right outcome. I got to visit with you a little bit the other evening. I'm not happy with the way this transpired with the state, and it would be nice if our city could have a little bit more leeway in coming up with the ordinance that we came up with. We didn't have it. Hopefully things will change. I may not vote in your favor, and I want you all to know that it's a pragmatic vote. It's as if I'm a judge and I've got to do what's kind of legally in the right way to do it. So aside from myself, others will do what they will, but I wanted to take this time to thank you and to thank your congregation. And regardless of what happens, I'd like to see that the city does all we can do with the alleyway. Regardless of this, you guys have problems.
Yes, sir.
And have had problems. So I would like, whether it's the police department or things that we can do in council, to give the city a little direction to whether we put up a guardrail type barricade with reflective stuff on it or whatever. Anything that we can do to be supportive of your church, supportive of that part of our community, I'm on board. One last thing that I'm appreciative, and it's because of who you are and who your congregation is regardless of what happens, the young lady applying for the change, and you guys just talking about working out and her trying to put up fences, whether it's on her property or not. When the public, good, bad, or indifferent with what is going to happen, when the public tries to work with one another and do what's right to their neighbors, by their neighbors, I'm real appreciative of that fact on both parties, on both sides. And I know that you have a welcoming and open heart, and you want to try to get along with people and do what's right. But I understand where you guys are coming from 100%. I don't blame you at all. Unfortunately, I'm bound to do what I think is mandated by our position up here. But having said that, I just wanted to thank you. And you're held in very high regard in this community, and I know why.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, can
Until
I
we
respond?
close the public meeting, you're welcome to come back and.
Is it okay if I
Sure.
respond?
Yeah.
I thank you, sir. And I've really got an education over this deal. I'm just a Baptist preacher. and I've really gotten education. Again, I asked the Lord and my congregation, my deacons. I even told my wife I was going to these dispensaries to check it out. I mean, it was all these different things because I need to do my homework. Those things concerned me even more.
They concern me too.
But I've also understood as I've visited with Fricks and Pemberton, there is some laws that are into effect, and I've made them aware of a bill, House Bill 1030, that there's a section in there that they really need to take a look at. And the response I got back from our legislators that represent Muskogee is that they want that the zoning and the decision to meet by the local municipalities. And so I don't think your hands, I mean, I'm trying to be respectful, but I think that you do have the freedom right now. If we have to, allow the courts to make this decision for us. But I think Muskogee, we're known for a lot of things. I'm proud to be an Okie from here. I make it very clear. I've only lived away 2.5 years and couldn't wait to get back. This is my home. This is where I raise my children, and I believe that you do have a say. You are representatives of the citizens of Muskogee, and I believe that you have the say to determine what ordinances to change in this case. I understand that you, being as a judge, you've got to determine what this is. But the laws are so loose right now. Even if you have to wait till these laws legislate this, I'm asking that at least put a stay on this till we get some kind of stance on this. But you all represent us here in Muskogee, and I think you do have that say. And if I'm sticking my neck out, and believe me, I've caught all kinds of flack for taking a stand on this issue, I just feel like, folks, let's take a stand. Let's make the news like McAllister and Yukon and El Reno, and let's let our legislators deal with this. If enough of our communities stand up and say, "Hey," and let the courts involved, let our legislators say, "Hey, we got a problem here." And maybe that's what it's going to take, is for us to stand and to do that. And I don't mean it disrespectful, sir. I am thankful. You are my. I think I live in your ward, I just think that it's something we really need to take a stand on. It's too close to a house of worship. I'm not here arguing the medical marijuana. I just said it's too close to our church for security matters, for concerns. I can't argue. It's the law of the land. Romans 12 says you need to obey the laws of the land, and if you're disobedient to the laws of the land, you're disobedient to God. I understand that, but I'm understanding that these are some issues of safety, and I think, like I said, you all represent Muskogee. Let's make a stand on this and let our courts decide this. And so, again, I'm not being disrespectful at all.
You're not disrespectful at all, and I understand where you're coming from. The last thing I'll leave you with is what I feel like part of my position is to do, is I have to treat every citizen applicant in Muskogee equal, and can't show favor to one.
I understand.
And not show favor to another, even if it's a good cause or I'm being heavily rallied by others. It could be something completely different than a marijuana place going in. And I can't tell you, I've been trying to promote and change some of this bad legislation myself all the way around, and I'll continue to do that. It's not a good deal right now.
It is not.
It's not a good deal.
And because of that, I'm asking us to let's reconsider this till we actually get some good. I'm not saying perfect legislation, but let's hold off on this until we get some good legislation in regards to this. Thank you.
I understand. Thank you. Thank you again.
Let's go ahead and close the public hearing. Does council have a question or comment, discussion that we would want to have with ourselves and staff?
Mrs. Callahan, I had requested that this be tabled to make sure that we had a correct barrier between a C2 and an R1, do we know that we've
Yes,
maintain that?
Ms. Nguyen wanted, the property owners had wanted to get the fence put up by tonight, through the weekend, and because of the utilities that are located within that alley, I did ask her, please be sure to have it located. They have had the utilities located. There is a current sewer line. Other than that, I don't know utilities. We're not given privy to that. There could be the AT&T or any of the electric lines could be underground, whatever's there, but we do have to retain an easement. It is a closed and vacated alley. They are putting up the fence from their property over to the American Motel. They've been in discussion with them. They did, the motel owners did ask that there be a gate so that they could mow back behind there. There will be a gate with a lock, and only those two have the lock. So they're willing to do anything. Her representative is here, Paula Wilburn, that she's been in discussion with her on their property, and they're willing to work with the surrounding property owners to try to secure it and keep it secured.
Because my concern, what's before council tonight is it going from a C1 to a C2, and we don't have much choice on that. But what we do have a choice is making sure that a C2 doesn't abut a C1, and making sure we have a proper barrier between those two.
Correct.
And we've got what assurance we can that that's going to make sure and be in place as much as it possibly can be, to make sure, because my goal was making sure R1 traffic is R1, C2 is C2, as much as we possibly can to provide a barrier.
Yeah, regardless of what goes in there, who their tenants are, even at the time when currently what is being C1, it required the 6-foot privacy fence. Sometimes enforcing them all along all of the areas has been difficult, but we can go out and make sure, especially those that address it, that there's an issue. You can go out and have the fence installed and repaired and kept in maintenance. So we try to keep that going when we do get complaints or notice that there needs to be some more security between the residential and the commercial use.
Thank you very much.
Other questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
Sure can.
Miss Callahan, put like one picture with the house up again. Okay, I'm looking at that house right there. It's empty. Do you know if someone's gonna move in that house or not?
I'm not exactly sure. It's not owned by the property owner that is requesting to rezone. It's owned by another individual, so
Okay.
I don't
Because
know.
I was told that the person that's going to open this dispensary is going to move in that house, so I don't know. But I do my homework. So this house right here is behind that property that we're talking about. Going towards the east, I went and visited those neighbors. Some of them were, said, well, it's across the fence, it's not going to bother us. And some of them said it wasn't. I'm not going to sit up and lie to you. Some was for it. I mean, not for it, but some didn't mind, some did. And my problem is that is the ward that I am a councilman in. And when I went and talked to the motel owner the other day, and he was shocked. He thought that one board that passed this and said it wasn't going to happen. He said, I didn't think that was going to happen. And I said, no, sir, it's going to happen. I said, that's why people need to be made aware of what's going on. Another thing, you can turn it off. You can say that. I'm sorry. I just have one quick question for Ms. Wilburn. And I just, tonight, instead of when you went around the bush the other night, I want a yes or no from you tonight. Would you want this, at your church you belong to, which I don't know where you belong, would you want it right across the street, yes or no?
I thought I explained myself last.
No, last time you went all the way around the tree talking about statistics.
I said it wouldn't bother me because of what I've been told about the security that's going to be in that building.
Okay. But what I'm saying is, would you want it across the street from your church?
I said I would not mind. I'm not going to say yes or no. I would not mind based on the security that I have been told is going to be in that building. And based on the studies that I have read that shows that a vacant building is going to have a lot more crime around it than one that has habitats in it.
Okay.
And although this may be a business that may have medical marijuana in it. The research that I have done in California and Colorado, where they have medical marijuana laws, is that the crime decreases once those facilities go in and increases once those facilities go out.
Okay, but you answered my question. You said you wouldn't mind if you had one across from your church. All right, thank you.
Okay.
I'll finish it up now. Well, we have the same, other cities that have the same problems. You have Elk City, El Reno, Yukon, New Cordo, Alva, and Eufaula. All these have the same problems that we have right now, and they have the ordinances down there. They don't want them around their schools. They don't want them around their churches. They don't want them around their museums, and they don't want them around their parks. So if you pull this information up on the internet, it's right there. You know, like I say, the problem I have is I have no problem with marijuana being medical, which eventually is going to be recreational. We all know that up here. Only reason it's not now is because that one gentleman made a mistake on his count. That's the only reason. It's not up here. I mean, it's not on recreational now. Also, another thing is that I did on my little journey this week. I went to the locations that are here, and I thank the council for letting me go to Los Angeles, California, so I could see what a real medical marijuana dispensary looks like. And I did. Totally different from Muskogee, Oklahoma. Very totally different. Ms. Wilburn was talking about safety. Oh, no. You walk in these medical marijuanas here in Muskogee, they got cameras. Sure, yeah, they got cameras. That's fine. But when I went to Los Angeles, California, when you walk in there, they got a camera. They see you when you're coming in. They got cameras all outside. When you walk in, they got a guard with a gun right there. And then when you give them your license and go back to the back to get their stuff, you got to slide your license and give them your license. And it's bulletproof glass, okay? So I checked it out while I was there. And when I did get my license and go back in the back through their door, I went through the door. Also, there was another guard waiting on me back there with a gun on. And trust me, he was looking. They had the cameras back there. What I'm saying is, over in this community, where these people go to church without security, and one day, I'm telling you, just like I used to tell you downstairs, right up here to the city council, we need security. And y'all listen to me. We got methods now just to help save us. But that's my problem I have. You know, every one of you councilmen up here, mayor, city manager, you need to go visit these facilities here in Muskogee and get a good look at them and see how, like I said, California, you just can't just, I mean, it's so easy here to do something wrong. I'll leave it at that. Well, I commend you, Pastor Eccles and your community your congregation for fighting this problem, because that's what this is. What we're scared of here on this city council is, we're scared if we vote no tonight, that we're going to get sued. Let us get sued. All these towns that I just named have been sued. If you don't stand up for something, you'll fall for anything. That's just how I feel. You know, we're up here to, my constituents, everybody up here, the constituents put us up here in this seat to look out for y'all's best interests and my best interests and my children's best interests. It's a reason that you're 1,000 feet away from a school for kids. I don't want my children going, when they get recreational, have to be around this stuff. When I was in Los Angeles, California, I could get it on the street. Because when I asked the gentleman for the directions to a dispenser, he said, "Oh, no, buddy, you don't have to have no dispenser. I got everything you need right here." He's blowing that stuff all in my face. And I said, wow. But he did have everything right there on Hollywood Boulevard. But I'm telling you, the security here in Muskogee, Oklahoma, is not nothing in those dispensaries. You know, and somebody, like I said, they don't open them on Sundays. I'm surprised. But that's, you know, but the laws, I've talked to the legislators too this week, and the laws can be changed.
Mr. Mann, are you addressing everybody here in your comments? Please do.
Yeah,
This time you're supposed to be talking to staff and to council.
Well, I'm talking to y'all then.
Okay.
Okay, what I'm saying is, we have the power up here to say no tonight. If they sue us, let them sue us. All these cities that I named off to you right here on my paper, they're under the same circumstances. Mm-hmm. Okay, another situation is, I checked on. Right there at your church, Mayor Coburn, is Zone C2. Okay, right across the street, that building right across from First Baptist, I guarantee you, First Baptist, them pews would be full back there. It just happened the First Baptist marijuana dispensary was coming to it. I guarantee that. All down Old Muskogee there.
That's
It's
hypothetical. We're not talking
I'm just
about First Baptist.
hypothetical. No, it's not hypothetical, Mayor. It's the truth. It's zone C2. Them people that own that building, they could come up here and want license too also. Same thing down the street from the another thing was on that thing with all these cities. Libraries, they're included. You can't have none of this stuff near a library. But all along that street is Zone 3C2. And some of those buildings are empty. But when it hits somebody else's community, that's when you'll wake up. Right. You'll wake up then. Just like I said, I said, and I'm going to shut up. Every pastor, every person that claimed to be a Christian should be sitting out in these pews tonight. But like I say, for me, I know what I'm going to vote. At least when I go to bed tonight with my God, I know everything's all right. So I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Eccles, and your community for being up here.
We have other questions or comments?
I'd like to make a comment. Ivory, going to Los Angeles, popping in a couple of dispensaries here and complaining about it is one thing. I've had 20-plus meetings with legislatures. I've been up to Oklahoma City. Instead of complaining, instead of whining, instead of moaning, I'm trying to get the legislation changed, and I've been working real hard at it. You can either scream and whine and complain, or you can, instead of taking trips to Los Angeles or some of these hokey-pokey dispensaries, and I agree with you 110%. It's a joke. It's criminal. I've taken the tact to try to lobby and influence and work on what the state should have done off the get-go. I sympathize with everybody on council because there's a lot of people on council that have the same exact thoughts that you have. They're just not letting it be known, but they've got the exact same thoughts. They're not any more happy than you are. They're not any more happy than I am. We can't, it's better to lobby and change these laws, even though it's too late. We can try to change them and reel them in and see if we can tighten down our ordinances to avoid things like this, because I'm in favor of it. But if this is the law, this is the law. And I just want everybody to know that out of all my peers up here, you're not the only one that's upset by some of what's gone on in this community. It's I don't want to call it equal, but there are people that have your very same thoughts. So I just want you to know, and I want everybody else to know that a lot of what you said, a lot of people agree with. I, for one, am trying to go to the state level and work real hard on changing a lot of this nonsense. Having said that, when the state throws down the gauntlet, we don't have any leeway. And for those that want to vote to send a message or what have you, that's their prerogative, and I'll respect them like always. But it could be a vote in futility. I mean, I think that it will be a vote in futility, and we can't get emotional on every single rezoning vote or whatever. We have to follow our standard protocol. That's just my thought. Now going against standard protocol, I think anybody that ever wants to do it should speak their mind and vote their vote.
But what I'm saying tonight, Mr. Kell, that we don't have to follow a standard protocol right now. We can vote no up here and still let them sue us.
Sure.
That's all it is to it. Let them sue us. There's nothing against that. We get sued, the city of Muskogee gets sued all the time over little trivial stuff. This is not trivial. This has something to do with our future, our children, to me. But I appreciate your comments to me, Mr. Kell. I really do. And I know you feel the way you feel. You feel the same way I do. And a lot of councilmen up here, they feel the same way I do, but they're not going to say it.
Well, they do.
They're not gonna voice their opinion, but they're
Mr.
gonna.
Van, let's don't speculate on what
Oh,
people
okay,
think.
I'm
Let's
sorry,
let them
Mr.
speak
Mayor.
for
Right.
themselves.
Okay, I'll apologize.
Is there other questions or comments?
My question is for Mr. Tucker. That's okay. When we were in conversations about an agreement possibly being reached between all of the property owners with the alley and the foot traffic, is it correct that if we were to have an agreement between all of the landowners where they would surrender whatever portion of the alley was necessary, that the city could actually assume responsibility to put the concrete pole type barricades down to further prevent unnecessary vehicle traffic?
If there's a public easement there, yes. And I think, Ms. Callahan, you said that there was an existing easement for sewer in that area.
Yes, even with a closed alley and
Does it run north
even
and south?
vacated, it runs east and west.
Okay.
And there is the sewer line, existing sewer line within there, so we always retain an easement even when we do the vacating or,
But our easement is east and west. The barricade would need to be north and south.
correct.
Okay. So the answer to your question is yes, if we were to be able to get a public easement for the north and south corridor there, yes.
That satisfies some of my concerns, because although this issue is likely to pass on tonight, I'm sure enough of us will be studious enough to follow up to be certain that the necessary barricades or anything that we can do to make the area safer will be done.
And Mr. Coleman, one of the other things that I had told Pastor Eccles is that we'd be happy to put up the temporary barricade there, A, until the fence was built, and B, to see if it did make a significant difference. I know that Pastor Eccles and I have had many conversations about things that can be done to reduce the foot traffic, crime, and drug abuse that occurs in that area, and that was one of the things that we certainly talked about.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have one more thing I want to ask
Yes, sir.
the city attorney. You know, marijuana is legal here in Oklahoma, correct, Mr. Tucker?
If you have a license
If
for
you have a
it,
license
yes.
for it. You know, right down the street from where this dispensary is going, we got a pharmacy. But you can't put it in the pharmacy, and it's legal, but you have a legal doctor that prescribes it. That ought to tell us something right there. Am I correct?
What was the question?
Wouldn't it make sense? What I'm saying is, when you get it, like I go to get my medicine, I go to a pharmacist.
Okay.
And he's a doctor, and he prescribes, and I get my prescription, and I walk out, and I pay him. Okay? When you go get marijuana, you go in there and get your prescription, and you pay him with the doctor, and you have to fill out a card. The doctor has to fill out a script, correct? It's the same thing.
And you have to get a license from the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority, OMMA. That's who issues the license. So you get the script, and then you have to apply to the state to get a license. And then once you have the license, then you can go in and purchase marijuana.
Right. But you can't do it in the pharmacy, correct?
Correct.
And why is that?
Because the law did not allow for that.
Okay. The law did not allow for that. But the law allowed for this.
That's correct.
Okay. You see my point? You probably don't, but I'll move on. I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Are there other questions or comments? I'd entertain a motion regarding this agenda item.
Move for approval.
And a motion?
And I'll take a second if he didn't do that way.
Do we have a second as well? Okay. Motion and a second. Is there comment or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston,
Yes.
Patrick Kale,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
No.
Wayne Johnson,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
No.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Dan Hall,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries. That concludes our agenda for the special call meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I was going to say before you close the meeting, I just wanted to say to my colleagues that I have to leave because of an award ceremony at the school board office. So,
Thank you, sir.
And congratulations. Don't forget your coat.
Our special call meeting is adjourned.
Call to order the Finance Committee meeting for February the 19th, 2019. Item number 1, please.
Consider approval of Finance Committee minutes for February 4th, 2019.
After reviewing the minutes, are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes?
Marlon Coleman. Oh, I'm sorry. Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 1 passed. Item number 2, please.
Consider approval of claims for all city departments January 31st, 2019 through February 13th, 2019.
Do we have a report from the purchasing committee?
Purchasing Committee did meet this afternoon. We did review claims. I would recommend approval.
We have a second to that motion.
A second.
Have a motion and a second that we approve the claims. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 2 passed. Item number 3, please.
Receive report from the Muskogee City County Port Authority regarding their industrial development projects, goals, and activities for 2019 and take other necessary action.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, the Muskogee City County Port Authority does report to us on an occasional basis and update us on their progress. Marie Sinar and Scott Robinson are here to do that. I invite them to come forward at this time and make their presentation.
Mayor, city councilors, thank you so much for the opportunity tonight to come and present to you our 2018 report to council. I have the privilege of representing the port in our contract for industrial economic development with the city. At this time, if you don't mind, I'd like to approach and actually hand you a physical copy. I believe you all received electronic versions ahead of time, but I would like to give you a hard copy as well.
Thank you.
I'm gonna make this last longer.
Sometimes it takes double for me. Thank you.
If you'd like, I'll pass those out.
So I hope that you had the opportunity to review the electronic versions ahead of this meeting. I know it's a lengthy document, but we put forth that document, hopefully, what we hope, as an educational tool as well. Essentially, our report to council is our program of work and exactly how we accomplish our program of work. I've also, for those that kind of want the highlights and just like pictures and graphs, I included kind of a truncated version as well. And so I'd just like to, I don't intend to go over that full lengthy document. I know you guys have heard me sit up here and talk about all those stats, which I know you're just riveting about. But, I would like to take a few minutes tonight to talk to you just about how we do what we do. I kind of have a captive audience right now, so I want to take advantage of that opportunity. So there's really 3 main things that we do in our office to fulfill our contract for you to do industrial economic development. And so first and foremost, it's the stuff that gets the headlines, recruitment of new industry. And we do that in a variety of forms. Historically, it's been more of a responsive and passive approach to new business recruitment. What that looks like, and we still very much do this, is respond to RFPs or request for proposals. Typically, how it works, a company decides that they're going to either relocate or open up a new operation, and they've decided, okay, I want to be in the central U.S., for some reason. Either it's close to their customers or close to their suppliers. And so instead of reaching out to the 10,000 different communities within those 5 or 6 states that they're considering, those companies like to reach out and have single points of contact, right? So they reach out to the Department of Commerce's within each of those states that they're looking at and considering and said, okay, here's what we need. We need 60 acres. We need rail access. We need to be within 10 miles of an interstate. We need to hire 60 welders. What do you got for us? And so that's when I get an RFP proposal from the Department of Commerce for Project XYZ. And we put together a very competitive and good proposal in response to that RFP and submit it through our partners at the Department of Commerce. Something that we have undertaken in the last few years is more of a proactive approach to our recruitment strategy, and that is we are members of the Governor's Economic Development Marketing Team. That is made up of the more progressive communities throughout Oklahoma, and what we do there is we leverage our marketing dollars. We have to go out and meet with these companies, these prospective companies that we're trying to attract. It's also important for us to maintain relationships with the site location consultants. You know, we may work with one company to try to entice them to come to Muskogee, and the project doesn't work. Well, we work with a site location consultant, and the project doesn't work this time, unfortunately, but hey, next week or next month or next year, they're working with another company, and hey, Muskogee's top of mind because they just were here, and they understand that, you know, again, things may not have worked out for that particular company, but this company would be a great fit for that community. So we, as members of the Governor's Economic Development Marketing Team, host call trips in which we do meet and maintain relationship with the prospective companies and the site location consultants. We also do receptions. A couple of weeks ago, we were in Dallas, and the Lieutenant Governor and new Secretary of Commerce were there, as well as the new Executive Director of Commerce, which, by the way, on a side note, I'm very pleased with those choices. I think that they will be great representatives for us at the state level. However, so that's really kind of the nuts and bolts. Besides participation in the Governor's Economic Development Marketing Team, which I know is a mouthful, we also participate in the state's Foreign Direct Investment Team. And that's made up of the 6 most progressive communities within the state, which Muskogee is certainly one of those. And we try to, you know, entice foreign companies to consider Muskogee. You know, we are a global city, particularly with the port and that opening us up to markets across the globe. On our retention efforts, we call that our BRE program, or Business Retention and Expansion Program. You know, okay, so those of you who know me, I know I'm seriously more of a modest person, but whenever it comes to bragging about what we do, bragging about Muskogee, and bragging about our team, I have to take this opportunity to do that. You know, we benchmark ourselves. And so, you know, what we do through our BRE program, we do industry visitations. So we maintain communication. You know, the last thing we want is, as we're out there trying to recruit new businesses to Muskogee, our existing companies are closing their doors, losing those jobs, losing that investment. So we work very, very closely with our existing businesses to make sure that, you know, not only that there's an environment here that allows them to grow and expand, but that we're helping to facilitate that growth on their behalf. So we do industry visits. Beyond that, we have formed the Greater Muskogee Manufacturers Alliance, which celebrated 10 years this past July. You know, that's really a testimony to how these manufacturers feel about this group, is that they're continuing to participate each and every month for 10 years. To kind of give you an idea of how we compare to other markets, you know, I often go to the Tulsa Area Manufacturers Luncheon. Tulsa, it's a big community, right? Metro area. You know, they have about 7 or 8 manufacturers that show up to their meetings. This past Friday, Lindsay and I attended the Grand Lake Manufacturing Council, which represents Pryor and pretty much that whole northeast Oklahoma area. They had 4 manufacturers. On average, our GMMA meeting attendance, we have 20 to 25 manufacturing companies with 40 to 50 manufacturing representatives at each meeting. We're killing it, guys. So our manufacturers, I mean, we do a very good job at encouraging business-to-business relationships between our companies. You know, we want them to do business with each other, and if they're not doing business with each other, we want them doing business in Northeast Oklahoma. If they're not doing business in Northeast Oklahoma, we want them to do business in the state. And so, you know, really maintaining those relationships has been absolute key and so helpful in what we do. Our manufacturers are such big supporters of our recruitment efforts, in talking with our companies and participating in our site visits, and giving us good feedback. The last thing that we do, and of course, you guys know this is near and dear to my heart, is what we're doing on the workforce development side. The number one site selection consideration or factor that a company or a site location consultant looks at whenever they're looking to locate a new company is workforce. So you've got to be able to answer and address what you're doing to prepare that workforce. And we're not talking about the workforce today. These companies and consultants are looking at what about 20 years down the road. So what are you doing now to make sure that we're going to have a workforce in the future? And we have a really great story and answer to that. And a lot of, so we've been doing our workforce development effort, which we call our Dream It, Do It committee and program. It is part of the national Dream It, Do It effort, and the state has also bought into this concept. There is a state director of Dream It, Do It who encourages other communities within the state to adopt this initiative. But I want to take this opportunity to brag on our workforce development manager, Lindsay McCall. Lindsay, you want to wave? So for those of you who have not met Lindsay, take her to lunch. She is a rock star. We are so fortunate to have her. Lindsay has a background. She's an OSU grad, any Cowboy fans. But she has also worked for OSU. She's been in the marketing department. She's been in the scholarship department. She's been in the financial aid department. She gets it. She gets education. She gets workforce. And her husband's also an engineer at one of our manufacturers, so it's kind of a good play there too. But Lindsay has been with us for 8 months now, and in these 8 months, she has not only continued what we have been doing the last few years of going and taking kids on plant tours, getting them inside these manufacturers to give them an idea of exactly what job opportunities exist in manufacturing, but also what these companies look like on the inside, because you drive by them every day and you have no idea. All these kids, Lindsay and I visited with a group of kids last week, and you ask them to name a manufacturing job, and all they can think of is a forklift driver. It's just such a misperception, and I was born and raised here. That's kind of the perception I had. Everyone's a line inspector working on a conveyor belt. It's not the case. Whether or not you want to pursue college or not, there is job opportunities for you in manufacturing, and not only in manufacturing, but in Muskogee. So getting these kids exposed to what job opportunities exist with our local manufacturers is so, so important. So again, we do that through plant tours, we do that through classroom visits, we do that not only for plant tours for the students, but for the teachers and school administrators, which is a little rocky, sometimes when these teachers learn they can actually make more money in manufacturing than they're making in the classroom. We'll see how that plays out with this next legislative session. However, within the 8 months that Lindsay has been here, Lindsay has created our first National Manufacturing Day block party. And for those that have not heard about this event, we took every single 8th grader from Fort Gibson Public Schools, 120 8th graders. That was a fun day, right? We held them at the River Center. They did everything from career panels with young people employed in our area manufacturers, talking to them about how they got in their positions, what classes they took, what degrees they went to or not, just kind of how they got their path in manufacturing. They did a make and take event where they learned lean manufacturing practices and the importance of soft skills. They even did a career fair with manufacturing representatives that they could talk with. And finally, a steamboat making exercise. And if you've never done that at the Batfish, I strongly recommend you go do it. It's kind of where we got the idea. Brent Trout has done a great job in putting together that program. But it was a really educational day. We survey every student that we touch, and we had resounding feedback from our kids. Many of them said it was the best field trip they've ever taken. But the benefit is that these kids now know about those manufacturers and the manufacturers in our community. The next thing that Lindsay has done within the last 8 months she has been here she created our first manufacturing club at Muskogee High School. And why this is important. This is the first manufacturing club not only in the state, but pretty much west of the Mississippi River. There are steam clubs out there, STEM clubs, there are robotics clubs, but there are no true manufacturing clubs. So Muskogee Public Schools has the first manufacturing club. We're so super excited about that. For those of you who participated in clubs while you were in high school, my club participation was like 5 to 10 people, and that's kind of where we were benchmarking ourselves on, getting participation. We have 40 to 50 high schoolers showing up to these manufacturing club meetings every month. That is outstanding. Through their monthly meetings, they're doing everything from plant tours. 2 weeks ago now, they did mock interviews with Acme Engineering. The engineer and HR manager from Acme gave them 2 job descriptions. They did their own research and actually sat down and did mock interviews with them. They got great feedback on this is what you keep doing. This is what you should never say and do again. So it's been great experience for them. And then not only that, the goal with this manufacturing club is to give them information on, career choices. But by the time that these kids graduate, they're going to know the HR managers at all of our manufacturers. They're going to know what the inside operations look like because they've already been on plant tours. So it's really going to give these kids that are participating in this club a leg up whenever they look to enter the workforce. And then finally, the last thing, which ties back into our BR&E program, our Greater Muskogee Manufacturers Alliance, GMMA's turned 10. They kind of wanted to do something to celebrate that 10-year anniversary and created the Greater Muskogee Manufacturing Alliance Technical Education Scholarship. So that scholarship program will be managed by our office, but the committee and the funding comes from our area manufacturers, trying to encourage our area youth to consider career pathways in manufacturing. So if you would like more information about that for any seniors in your family or in your community and your wards, please reach out to Lindsay. Again, we're doing great things. We've got one of the best workforce programs in the state. Super excited about it. I also want to take the time to thank you guys for your support and just being so responsive. I know I call or text you guys all crazy, times. Can you come up to an 11 o'clock site visit? Can you come to this meeting and that meeting? So thank you so much for your support, and I'd love to chat in more detail with you anytime. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Marie?
Mr. Chairman, I'll be recognized.
Yes.
Yes, Marie, I'd like to say thank you too. Before I even became a councilman, I used to go to manufacturers awards out to ITC. You invited me, and I definitely enjoyed it. And I worked in the manufacturing with Georgia Pacific. I know when they pull that reel off that toilet paper, what perf is. I know what emboss is. I know what that core is because I've done all that and made all that when I was there. I made a good living. I was making $22.50 in 2003 at Georgia Pacific. And it was a good living for me. Mm-hmm. So manufacturing, some kids are not, even though I still went to school to learn plumbing, but I know I do plumbing and plus know I make the toilet paper too. But, manufacturing is a good field for kids that don't go to college. You can make good money in the manufacturing field. So I'd like to thank you for all your hard work you do at the port.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Any further questions?
Thank you, Marie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Item number 4, please.
Consider approval of final payment to Today's Roofing, Inc. in the amount of $11,245.49 for the roof replacement for the Emergency Management Building, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Garvin?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, in July 2018, City Council approved a bid from Today's Roofing to replace the roof on the Emergency Management Building at the fairgrounds. It was previously damaged during a storm. Since that time, repairs have been made. They have obtained their final inspection. The job was completed within budget, within the time allowed, and the contractor is requesting final payment in the amount of $11,245.49. Staff recommends approval of the final payment. Glad to answer any questions.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any discussion?
We have secured that the warranty is in place and the bond.
Yes, we've obtained all the.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Questions? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston?
Yes.
Patrick Kale?
Yes.
Wayne Johnson?
Yes.
Ivory Van?
Yes.
Derek Reed?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Yes.
Jamie Stout?
Yes.
Mayor Coburn?
Yes.
Item number 4 passed. Item number 5, please.
Consider approval of an agreement between the City of Muskogee and Honeywell International, Inc. to install a new EBI server and software upgrade to our existing system at the Civic Center in the amount of $57,892, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Garvin.
This is agreement between the City of Muskogee and Honeywell. It's to put a new server and software upgrade at the Civic Center. This is the system that controls the heat and air system, not only for the Civic Center, but for City Hall, PublicWorks facility, Payment Center, and several other buildings. It'll also bring the system up to date with both the Honeywell and Microsoft platforms. The Attorney's Office has reviewed the agreement. Facilities and IT is recommending approval, and also Purchasing Committee met earlier today and recommended approval. Glad to answer any questions.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston?
Yes.
Patrick Kale?
Yes.
Wayne Johnson?
Yes.
Ivory Van?
Yes.
Derek Reed?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Yes.
Jamie Stout?
Yes.
Mayor Coburn?
Yes.
Item number 5 passed. Item number 6, please.
Consider approval of final payment for wastewater improvements for the Junction Area Sewer Line Rehabilitation Project number 2018015 in the amount of $17,464.58, or take other necessary action.
Riley.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman and committee, this is our second OWRB project that's completed. It consists of about 600 feet of 18-inch line and 600 feet of 20-inch lines, two different lines that were pretty much not functioning very well because of collapses in those lines. You can see the location. It's just off a junction, or just south of Kalamazoo, near the junction area. There's two different lines that we replaced. Went from Kalamazoo over to the under the bike trail. These are some photos of during construction, and then this is the final photo after everything's backfilled and seated and back in great condition. We were very happy with the project. It came out great, under budget, on time, and we recommend approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Move the approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any discussion?
Yes, may I be recognized, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Raleigh, I'd like to say y'all done a great job. On South 4th Street, I haven't had any calls about the water backing up in people's houses. But I wanted to mention, have you know Clyde Thomas?
Yes.
Have you heard anything from him? Is he satisfied with where you put the fence and everything?
Yes, we've met with him, and we're continuing to make sure everything's okay with him. But yes, everything's good.
Okay. 'Cause I was just curious about that because, you know, he was nice enough to let us on his property and give us the easement. I just want to make sure he was taken care of.
Yes.
And like I said, thank you again for a wonderful job, because like I say, my phone don't ring now. Turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any more questions? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston?
Yes.
Patrick Kale?
Yes.
Wayne Johnson?
Yes.
Ivory Van?
Yes.
Derek Reed?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Yes.
Jamie Stout?
Yes.
Mayor Coburn?
Yes.
Item number 6 passed. Item number 7, please.
Consider approval of amendment number 2 for additional design services for the Depot Green project, as well as construction administration services, and further authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute an agreement with Planning Design Group for said services, not to exceed an amount of $52,000, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Wilkerson.
Mr. Chairman and committee members, Planning Design Group is the firm that we've selected months ago to do the design for the Depot Green project. We were awarded initially a design grant from the foundation to master plan and plan the site location, and so we've done that. What this is calling for is an amendment to their agreement so that we can proceed with some additional work, primarily some additional work to the site, but also to design the restroom. And the initial design package did not include the restroom. At this time, we're going to go ahead and do the design work with anticipation that we will receive our grant from. I was here last meeting for your permission to apply for the state, and if we were to get that grant, we want to be able to build a restroom. So we want to go ahead and have that design now, so that when we find out in a few months whether or not we get that grant, we'll be prepared to put it all out to bid as one package and this will allow us to do that. In addition to it, this also agrees to them to provide the construction administration services for once we do enter into a contract with a contractor to build the park. Happy to answer any questions.
I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Nice glasses, I might add.
Sir.
Did all the trucks I saw going down York Street towing cattle and horse trailers, did they all make it to Hatbox okay? That was quite a sight.
Well, I heard they did, and I heard they were. Some of them were intercepted by a train, I think, but they made it there, I believe. Yeah, it was quite a sight. I saw it too.
Yeah.
It was 49 trailers and trucks.
I thought, my gosh, quite a sight. Thanks to you for all that you and your staff have done to prep us out there so that we can do things like that.
Thank you, Council.
I move for approval.
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized?
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Wilkerson, I'm just curious on this plan design group.
Yes, sir.
Do y'all ever put this up for bid for anybody else to do this, design these programs?
Yes, we do.
You never have a response because they all seem like they're the ones that always get the job.
Well, it kind of depends on the job. There have been other firms that have done that. I left in your package of information for the background of the selection process, which companies were interviewed. Matter of fact, the company that we're dealing with now, GH2, the architects out of Tulsa, they were one of the companies that we interviewed for the depot project as well. So on the newer project that we're working on now at Hatbox is GH2 out of Tulsa. So.
Okay. I was just curious because, like I say, down there at Robinson Park, we got a petition in our bathroom, and then when they blocked it, they just put the blocks up against the wall, no kind of, well, you've seen the pictures, and you can see what kind of sorry, sloppy job that was. So I was just curious, I think we need on these projects, or like, when we're doing these projects, have someone go around and each phase, check them out, like, say, for instance, like Billy, he's over our facilities. Let him check and see, make sure these contractors are doing what they're supposed to do. Because, like I say, I'm tired of seeing sloppy work that the city of Muskogee have to pay for. But I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve this item. Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston?
Yes.
Patrick Kale?
Yes.
Wayne Johnson?
Yes.
Ivory Van?
Yes.
Derek Reed?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Yes.
Jamie Stout?
Yes.
Mayor Coburn?
Yes.
Item number 7 passed. Item number 8.
Consider approval to authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute an agreement with Youth Scoreboards LLC to provide scoreboards for the Love Hatbox Sports Complex or take other necessary action.
Okay, Brooke.
Good evening. We're excited about this project. This is another Hatbox project for the sports complex. So I've been working with Youth Scoreboards. They are a company that approached us. They provide scoreboards and also digital signage. So they are an advertising company. They will solicit for advertising locally, and then they also have national sponsors that support their programs. So they've been operating a few years now. They approached us a few years ago, and the timing with SFM and the changes that we've made at that time, we did not move forward with the agreement. Other cities have installed these. They have had success, and I've visited with them, gotten their feedback. We have the support, of course, the Baseball League, which we're running in-house, and then also our Green Country Girls Softball Association. We have support from them. So we are looking at the opportunity to add brand new scoreboards. They're user-friendly, they're handheld remotes, and they'll be a great addition to our complex for our baseball and softball leagues and tournaments. So I would like to your approval to move forward working with them and working out the details, working with Mark and Mr. Miller on how we can move forward with this project. The advertising will pay for the scoreboards and the digital sign. Once that is paid for, it could be 2 to 3 years, then we would start generating revenues from through the youth scoreboards. So that revenue would come through them. They will install them. They're ready, anxious and ready to go with their spring projects. And if we make their list, then they are ready to start on this project as soon as possible. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Who will do the maintenance and upkeep of them?
The upkeep, we will do minor maintenance. We are to provide electric to the scoreboards, which we do have existing older scoreboards that are no longer in operation. So the electric, that will need to be evaluated. We'll bring electric to the scoreboard. They will install the new units. And then going forward, we do minor, changing bulbs. We're responsible for the remotes. So the handheld units are, if something happens, we have to keep, batteries and keep them in operation. We would have to replace them. But anything major that were to go wrong, they would handle.
Thank you. Yeah, the controllers and everything in the new digital ones, that's the ones that I just want to make sure that they covered during that period of time. So that's great. Thank you.
Hey, Brooke, what other facilities around here has these, in case we want to go look at them?
Broken Arrow, Bigsby, Collinsville, Owasso.
And they're primarily on their baseball fields?
I think all the Oklahoma cities. Baseball and softball, youth, and their focus is youth.
Okay.
And they want them in front of an audience, so the youth sports brings them an audience.
Okay, thank you.
Good work.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston?
Yes.
Patrick Kale?
Yes.
Wayne Johnson?
Yes.
Ivory Van? Derek Reed?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Yes.
Jamie Stout?
Yes.
Mayor Coburn?
Yes.
Item number 8 passed. Item number 9, please.
Consider approval to ratify submission of a grant application to the City of Muskogee Foundation in the amount of $53,582 for a bike share program as recommended by the Muskogee Wellness Initiative, or take other necessary action.
Kevin?
Thank you, council members. Came to you last month, spoke on this subject about the bike share program. You had approved us to go and submit to the Muskogee Medical Foundation. They did reject our application, so we took that time to go and send a very similar application to the City of Muskogee Foundation, and would just ask that you ratify that action this evening. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston?
Yes.
Patrick Kale?
Yes.
Wayne Johnson?
Yes.
Ivory Van?
Yes.
Derek Reed?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Yes.
Jamie Stout?
Yes.
Mayor Coburn?
Yes.
Item number 9 passed. Item number 10.
Consider approval to contract with Midwest Employers Casualty Company for excess workers' compensation insurance in the amount of $87,577, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is a renewal of our excess carrier, and we did have our third-party administrator obtain some quotes for us. We retained a quote from Midwest Employers, who is our current insurer, as well as Safety National. New York Marine and General Insurance opted not to provide a quote. That was because their underwriting company acquired Safety National, so they saw no point in bidding twice. What we're recommending today is to renew our policy with Midwest Employers Casualty Company. Last year they did provide us with a 2-year guarantee, and so the rate that they're charging it is the same, which is 0.3985 rate per $100 of payroll, which equates to a premium of $87,577. The actual dollar amount of premium went up about $2,400. That was because the City of Muskogee's payroll went up, because the percentage did remain the same. The other quote we received from Midwest Employers was at a lower rate per $100 at 0.3611, but the coverage is not as good. On that policy, it's $600,000 before that we have to spend on workers' comp before the excess carrier kicks in. Under the policy that I'm recommending, it's $500,000. Safety National also quoted, but theirs was significantly higher at 0.4818, which would be a premium due of $105,883. So I'm recommending we renew our policy with Midwest employers in the amount of $87,577. Happy to answer any questions, and I recommend approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stowe.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 10 passed. Item number 11, please.
Receive report, consider and discuss potential projects to be included in a possible election to renew an expiring 1/2 cent, 0.5% capital improvement sales tax, provide direction to staff, and take other necessary action.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, ask for your indulgence as we go through the capital improvement plan that we're in the middle of now from 2014 that the voters passed, and then we look forward to what the next one might hold. I think if you bear with me, we can deal that faster than we did rezoning, but I want to give you guys that opportunity to ask as many questions as you'd like. To start, we're going to take a look at the CIP that is currently in place. It is a 1/2 cent, and when you put that in with a dollar amount in there, it looks small, and it is, but when you do it, when you add it up with everybody, it can really get a lot of good stuff in our community. So our last CIP had a couple of questions. One was for sewer upgrades, one was for capital projects that you're more familiar with, probably including the King Center and others. So we're going to look at the first question and the amount that was spent on sewers. The main project was the sanitary sewer improvement along Cootie Creek, along the southern part of town. The reason that we had to do this through a CIP is because for a long time we did not charge enough for our water and sewer services that we provide to the city to cover our expenses. And so we got in trouble with the state. They said, you have to do these upgrades and we have to figure out how to pay for them. And so at that time we decided we'd do a sales tax to help pay for them. The reason I bring that all up is you guys have addressed that issue. We now have the capacity to do, at this point, we've got $18 million worth of sewer line improvements in the works because of the actions you guys have taken. We don't have to include that in the upcoming CIP. We can use sales tax to pay for things that we don't charge for, like parks or public safety issues. So the second question in 2014 had to do with the capital improvements. The three big ones that people paid a lot of attention to certainly are the King Center and Hatbox Sports improvements and demolition and beautification of the city. So we'll go through these a little bit. What you see on the left is what our idea was, what could we do for the King Center, and what you see on the right is kind of a mid-construction picture of here's where we were and here's where we're on our way to being as we built a much better community center with the Martin Luther King Center as part of that plan. The City of Muskogee Foundation was our partner as we try to use a tax dollar, a citizen dollar, and then leverage that and find additional funding to get our projects done. Hatbox Sports Complex, we made improvements out there to facilities and to the fields themselves. This last year, I will say, has been the best year we had at the fields as far as complaints from our user groups. And that's one way we measure it. How are our facilities doing? Is people, sometimes no comments are good comments. We've done a lot out there, and that's been a good investment in our community. We decided we wanted to take down a backlog of unsafe structures. We had a backlog of more than 500 buildings that need torn down. We said we would try and get to all of them. We got to more than all of them. We got 700 knocked down through this process, through the CIP. So we were able to keep up now, and that's been a success story as well. You've seen a lot of improvement at the airport over the last few years. It's in part because we had the CIP money to use to match grants. You see some of the projects there. We had water line improvements as part of the last CIP. Again, we now have $27 million of projects lined up that we're able to pay without using the sales tax to pay for that. The fire department needed new breathing apparatus. We were able to purchase that in the last CIP. We were able to do police department renovation. At parks, we were able to again leverage our city tax dollars with the state grant to expand our trail system, another big success story. We wanted to improve the library, and so we put a new roof on that thing, and we've got some new LED lighting, and we've done what we ask, or the citizens ask us to do at the library. Now, we do have some projects that are still ongoing, and that's in part because the tax is still coming in. The tax goes until September. But these are three of the outstanding projects that we have. One was to improve the Kiwanis Center. You guys are well aware of our proposed plan. We submitted a grant to the City of Muskogee Foundation, or a letter of intent, to try and move some of those programs over to the West Okmulgee Fire Station and improve that, make that a facility that can really be outstanding for those programs. Signalization of Court Street and the downtown streetlights to tie those in with when trains come through town. That was part of our CIP last time. We've used this portion of our CIP as a match in the last couple of build grant opportunities that we've had. So the reason that project isn't done is we were trying to make sure that it was, if possible, leveraged to get a bigger project done. It will be done, whether it's part of that bigger project or not. But that's where we're at on that. And you guys are also probably aware of the signalization at Shawnee and Country Club. That project, we've gotten ODOT as a partner to contribute with us there to, again, make that dollar stretch further. We should have the signals in within 6 months, and the paving and the new lanes additional out there after that. So the 2014 CIP, that was a look back, but it was an investment in our community, and I wanted to end with these pictures of the King Center because we hear all the time about the success that it is. It's only a success because the citizens of the community voted that it was something that they wanted, and the council at that time included it in the CIP, and we moved forward with it. So now it got to be this time, about this time last year, we were talking with the city council and said, hey, this is going to roll off. This tax is going to expire. What do we want to do? And the council gave direction to staff to say, we want to have another chance to invest in our community. Let's talk to people in the community, find out what's important to them. The council has done that over the past year. Staff has done that. We've come back with ideas and kind of vetted them out. And here are some proposed ideas for a renewal of the tax. So the expiring tax, it's just a renewal. So we would take that same half cent. We'd use most of it for streets and about 2/3 of it for streets and about 1/3 for other projects. For discussion purposes, here is how that would break down. Remember those little numbers of half a cent. If you take it over 6 years, it adds up to a lot. That's the community working together and the power of the community investing in itself. It's $18 million over that time. The bulk of it would go to streets, and we'll go through these individually. Parks and quality of life, facilities improvements, contingency and financing. I'll pause briefly there. Last CIP, we were so excited about our projects, we borrowed some money to go get them done instead of waiting for the tax to come in, which is good, and a lot of cities do that. We just didn't budget to do that last time. So we want to have the possibility to start our street projects or start some of these other projects early if we need to. Public safety improvements, airport and port match, and we'll talk more about that. The King Center and the demolition and beautification program. So I want to talk through these real quickly. And we're going to talk about streets. This is what that looks like. It's the almost $12 million. Some of that is for contingency and for financing. The rest of it's going to streets. It's no ifs, ands, or buts. But a lot of people ask, why are we needing to pass a tax for streets? How can we not have better streets with our existing money? And it's a fair question. So we've looked into that. Basically, what we found is we've been behind for years. We've got a deferred maintenance level approaching $68 million, and we'd rather start addressing that now, or at least give the community the opportunity to help us address it. What we found in streets is you get what you pay for. And so our analysis shows we need $3 to $3.5 million just to stay even and flat where we're at, and here's what money we have available to us. I want to draw special attention to the top two lines. That's the state funding that we get for streets. It's about $320,000. For comparison, Fort Smith in Arkansas gets $8 million a year from the state for their municipal streets. So are they going to have better streets than us? I think they probably are. Now, this is not a problem unique to Muskogee. All of Oklahoma is in the same boat. So how do other cities fund their streets? Well, we have a permanent dedicated sales tax. That's important. We use our general fund. And we get up to about $2 million a year. But as you know, that leaves us about $1 million to $1.5 million short. Here's how we spend the money that we currently have. We have some big projects that have made major improvements. York Street and Martin Luther King Street are done. The 24th Street project is in the bid process right now. And so we'll be paying for those projects. Again, we borrowed money to pay for those out, but get them done up front. ODOT is still charging us for their last Highway 69 project, and that's about $100,000 a year for a few more years. Traffic signals for their maintenance and upkeep, and our street maintenance really boils down to a lower number even than that. But that's our $2 million. So this is a slide about what do other cities do. It's a problem everybody has. How do other cities in Oklahoma handle it? Well, these are some comparable cities, and CL miles means center lane miles as you look at that. There you see their budget source, and their dollars per center lane mile, which is really kind of how you compare us to other communities. And you see we're at the bottom. And that's in part because we have not, other communities have asked more of their citizens through either bond issues, GO bond, a general obligation bond, a property tax bond. Broken Arrow recently passed more than $100 million for streets in a bond issue. As we looked at this, since we had an expiring sales tax, it made sense for us to try and renew that sales tax and give our citizens an opportunity to have better roads. Again, we get what we pay for. And so there's some good news along this as well. We've talked to the City of Muskogee Foundation, and they have approved a match for this portion of the vote. So if the citizens choose to vote for that question for the streets, not only will they generate about $2 million in tax, they'll also generate a $2 million match from the foundation. So our budget for streets will go from about $2 million a year, which is less than what we need to maintain to where we're at, to $6 million a year through the course of this tax, which will really let us make up some ground. It's not everything we need. It's not going to fix every street in town, but over a 6-year period, it's going to make a big difference. And that's what we're looking at for this particular tax. Our plan is to continue rotating between zones, but there will also be times when we have certain projects that it makes sense to work across zones. If we have a big mill and overlay package, it may make sense to do several of them at once and get a better bid. So maybe in different parts around town, but the work will be distributed across zones. Here's what we're going to try and do. Really quickly, you'll see the first 40% of the lifetime of pavement, it keeps its quality pretty well. But as it ages, it starts dwindling fast. It gets worse pretty quick. And so what we've found is that we've been towards that bottom of that curve. We wait until we absolutely have to fix something, especially in our residential and collateral streets. And so what we want to do is that second slide, is as it gets lower, we spend a lot less to keep things up at a much higher level. So this investment will allow us to move towards that and basically get a lot more for our buck for maintenance moving forward. The focus is going to be on residential streets. The money we have now, we mainly keep on arterial streets, and the money we've not been able to do is spend on our residential streets. We got 230 miles of those, and we have 48 miles that are below a 45 PCI. PCI's pavement condition index. 45 is bad. And I'm not telling you stuff you don't already know, but I'm showing you that we understand the problem. We've got to come up with a solution, and the solution is how do we fund taking care of those streets. So here's what we're going to do. If we get this funding, we're going to be able to mill and overlay all 48 miles of those really bad streets. Mill and overlay is a major rehabilitation of streets. We're going to streets that are in better condition, we're going to try and keep them at a higher level. And so that will greatly improve our residential streets through that time. We're also going to look at collectors. A lot of times there'll be residential collectors, the main streets that go through neighborhoods. So every neighborhood you guys, just think of the neighborhood you live in, you know the one that everybody drives down to get out to the main street. So we're going to do a lot of work on collectors. Again, the worst ones, we're going to do a major overhaul. The ones that we hope don't get real bad, we're going to do a microseal, and we're going to do a lot of work on those. We're going to keep doing our work on the arterials. Our arterials are in pretty good shape. Keep in mind, we share a lot of streets with the state highway system, and so some of the streets you see are state highways, and they maintain those, but we try and keep up with ours as well, and we'll continue to do that. This is a visual example. The purpose is not to draw attention to any particular street, but to draw attention to the colors. With our existing tax, we're getting ready to go out for bid for the southwest zone of the city. That's on the left side. You can see the green is the mill and overlay, and the blue is some microsurfacing. That's the amount of work we're going to be able to get done. On the right is if we had the new tax and the match in place, that's how many streets we'd be able to get done. It's a big difference. And we'd see that through all the quadrants. This is just a good visual representation. So we're excited about the opportunity. We'll also do some work on traffic signals. They're getting to be 50 plus, 60 years old in some cases. Several downtown are even older than that. So we want to be able to replace that as part of this process. And we're going to keep leveraging our street funds. We've got a great partnership with Muskogee Creek Nation on Hilldale Smith Ferry Road. And we've talked about that and the EDA project and the new additional funding or the new additional project we're going to be able to do with that funding. We've got opportunities with the county, ODOT, and other EDA projects as well. So we're going to keep trying to leverage every penny we have and make more and better projects. So the end result of this plan over the next 6 years, if we adopt this tax and if it's approved by the citizens, is more than 100 miles of residential streets repaired compared to right now, we're barely able to do anything but patch. This is resurfacing, not patching. This is a major improvement over what we've been able to do. So we're excited about that question. That's question one. Question two is city capital improvements. There are the big categories. We'll walk through them. The big areas in the parks and the quality of life is Hatbox. It can be used at the sport complex or at the hangars, depending on the projects as they come through. Our water park is a big asset to our community, and this will allow us to maintain or possibly even upgrade. Likewise with the Swim and Fitness Center, our parks upgrades and trails allow us to maintain better and also perhaps add amenities as the years go by over the next 6 years. For facilities, we have lots and lots of facilities that are in the city of Muskogee that need attention. This is a way for us to make improvements on a lot of the deferred maintenance, because it's not just streets that we've been a little bit behind on. Two examples here, the City Hall, Roxy, but you look all over town, there's plenty of places we could spend this money and bring and modernize our existing facilities. Public safety, of course, very important. The police body cams, we've seen time and again how those are an asset in our community for law enforcement and for our citizens. The foundation, we're asking them to continue paying for the storage, but we've got to get new cameras at some point during this 6-year period. So we're putting that into this CIP. For the firemen, we want to make sure we have good money available for station improvements and bunker gear. That's the main gear that they wear when they're fighting fires. And extractors are basically a big, complicated washing machine that can help get the carcinogens out of the fabric of their gear. So if you're in a fire, you want to make sure it gets as clean as possible. There's specialized machinery for that, and we feel that's important. We've talked over the last few years about the funding problems that the 911 Center has, especially for the capital improvements. This is a way for our citizens to participate with us in making sure that we keep that system upgraded and going strong. We talked about the airport and the success they've had leveraging money. We also want to talk about something additional. I talked about the build grant a little bit earlier that the city applied for. And we're very excited to say that the Port Authority did win a almost $6 million grant this year to modernize the railroad out at the port, basically to keep it functional as we move into the future. And, pardon me. So it's a $6 million grant for a $12 million project. So they need, obviously we need to come up as a community with that other $6 million for the match. This will allow us as a city to participate in an important economic development opportunity. So there's $500,000 proposed to fund that match. So here, again, quickly in retrospect, is all of those projects that we talked about. I want to talk briefly about the King Center. It's been a great success for the community, so much a success that we realize we don't have near enough parking. So this would help get a parking project taken care of, and the King Center would be able to be even more utilized than it is now. The demolition and beautification project we talked about earlier, we'd love to keep that going, but we don't have to spend nearly as much. We've caught up on the backlog, but this will allow us to keep that program moving forward as well. So this is what the total $18 million looks like again, kind of going back to that. But the streets are our emphasis, they're our focus, they're the number one priority that the council's given us, and this is a way for us to address that and let our citizens work to address that. So there's three basic takeaways I would give as we talk about the 2019 CIP. Remember, this is a sales tax renewal. It's not a new tax. We're taking the money that we've already got coming in and we're putting it towards a new purpose, and we're putting it towards a couple of things. Streets, and we get what we pay for on streets. Other cities pay more for streets. They have better streets than we do. This is our chance to do something about our streets. And we had community input to invest in our city, and what those other projects represent. So we're excited about those. So here's our timeline. We're talking about these today. We're throwing it out there as ideas for us to consider as a council and a community. When we're ready, Mr. Tucker has agreed to help me navigate, and we'll prepare ordinances and resolutions to call a special election. Our timeline that we've discussed has been for a May 14th election. To do that, we would need to call an election by March 11th. So this is where I stop talking and take a breath and maybe a sip of water. You guys give us feedback, direction, thoughts as we head into finalizing a CIP.
Are we recognized, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
This is great for our city, Mr. Miller, for these streets that make them our main project. And I'm so glad that we won't be doing any more of that chip and seal. I'm glad that's going away for good.
That's correct.
So like I say, I commend you for your hard work, and I just hope and pray the citizens vote for this so we can get our streets looking good and drive on them and won't have to go to the wheel shop with our cars and trucks, So thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions or discussion for Mr. Miller concerning this item?
Outstanding work on part of all of our staff.
Yeah, I do. The department heads deserve a ton of credit. I didn't come up with these ideas. The citizens and you guys and the department heads did all the hard work.
Very comprehensive. We appreciate it.
And to understand this fully, the 11 million for streets in 6 years with matching funds will actually be 22 million.
Yes, and that includes that 11 million. It's closer to 12. We're spending some of it as contingency, but yes. Yes.
Rough
No,
numbers.
it would be, if this passes, we'd spend $24 million additionally on streets approximately.
What a wonderful opportunity.
Yes.
All right. No more questions?
I would say if you'd like to provide direction, we can prepare the resolution ordinances to move forward with projects along these lines, if that's the will of the council.
Do you need a motion to that effect?
Madam Deputy Mayor, what Mr. Miller stated would be an appropriate motion, which would be to authorize staff to bring forth an ordinance establishing the renewed sales tax with a resolution calling for the election based upon the parameters discussed in council.
Move for approval.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston?
Yes.
Patrick Kale?
Yes.
Wayne Johnson?
Yes.
Ivory Van?
Yes.
Derek Reed?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Yes.
Jamie Stout?
Yes.
Mayor Coburn?
Yes.
All right, item number 11 passed, and with that passing, this is final item on the Finance Committee meeting.
I'll now call to order the Public Works Committee of February the 19th, 2019. Item number 1.
Consider approval of Public Works Committee minutes of February 4, 2019.
Everybody's had time to review minutes. Any comments?
Move the approval.
Second.
Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn has left.
Stepped out. Item number 1 passes. Item number 2.
Consider approval of a preliminary and final plat of Wilkerson Addition consisting of one lot on .47 acres located on the southwest corner of North 6th Street and Emporia, or take other necessary action.
Ms. Callahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. This is a request from the Cynthia Wilkerson for a preliminary and final plat. It is a replat of Lot 1, Block 188 in the Muskogee Original Town Site, and due to the complexity of the lots, it was suggested to do the replat rather than a lot consolidation. She has acquired all that property under one ownership, and she is looking to develop it commercially to put in a new daycare. She will be required to extend the sewer main. That was part of one of the subdivision review committee requirements, and the design is being drawn up right now by her engineer. So staff and planning commission subdivision review recommended approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Item number 2 passes. Item number 3.
Consider approval of a preliminary and final plat of Sanders Estates 2 consisting of 3 lots on 8.2 acres located on the south side of Smith Ferry Road and on the west side of Gulick, south of Smith Ferry Road, or take other necessary action.
Ms. Callahan again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. This is a request from the Sanders to develop property that is south on Gulick and right at the corner of Smith Ferry. It was hard to kind of describe. It's south of Gulick on the west side of Gulick, south of Smith Ferry. So what they are proposing is a preliminary and final plat of 3 lots that will be on 8.20 acres. They will be selling off possibly 2 of those lots for development and constructing a home themselves on one of them. Staff, subdivision review committee, and planning commission recommend approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions from committee or staff? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 3 passes. Item number 4, please.
Consider approval of the preliminary plat for Plantation Acres consisting of 9 lots on 16.16 acres located on the northeast corner of South Country Club Road in Hancock, or take other necessary action.
Ms. Callahan again.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Isn't this exciting, all this development
Yes,
starting?
it is.
This is a request for a preliminary plat. This is not a preliminary and final, it's preliminary only. It is developed to plat out 9 lots. One has an existing structure on it, but so there will be 8 lots available for residential construction. This is located there at Hancock and Country Club. Due to its location, they do not have a sewer main that is close enough where they're required to extend it. So they will be required to provide individual sewer systems. Some of the lots are big enough for septic, but I believe they'll probably go with the aerobic sewer system. They do have the water lines, however, they do need an additional fire hydrant, and when they submit their final plat, that will be one of the requirements, as stated in subdivision review, that they do provide an additional fire hydrant to serve those lots. Subdivision Review Committee did approve the preliminary plat subject to that fire hydrant and any other minor corrections. And Planning Commission recommended approval also, along with staff.
Any questions?
Move for approval.
Got a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions from committee? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Tish. Item number 4 passes. Item number 5.
Consider approval of a project agreement for the wayfinding sign project for the installation of wayfinding signs in the city of Muskogee or take other necessary action.
Mr. Rodman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and committee. As part of this year's budget, we're adding to our wayfinding signs, and the majority of the signs will be on state highways because they're on the routes into town, telling people which ways to go to different attractions. We work with the chamber, and they've been working with ODOT back and forth as to what we can put in the right of way and what they'll allow, and we've finally hammered out this agreement, and it lets us move forward with this project, and we're happy with the agreement that we've worked out with them, and I recommend approval, and happy to answer any questions.
I'm really glad for us to see us get outside of the downtown area. I know that's where we initially started, but I'm glad to see us get on the highway and start leading them off the highway into our community. Any questions from staff?
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston?
Yes.
Patrick Kale?
Yes.
Wayne Johnson?
Yes.
Ivory Van?
Yes.
Derek Reed?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Yes.
Jamie Stout?
Yes.
Mayor Coburn?
Yes.
Item number 5 passes. Item number 6.
Consider approval to reject the sole bid for wastewater treatment plant biosolids removal from digester number 2 submitted by Tonto Environmental, and further authorize staff to solicit new proposals or take other necessary action.
Mr. Riley.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and committee. Our digester number 2 at the wastewater plant suffered some damage in the cold weather about a year ago, and we need to empty it so we can get in and determine what we need to do to fix it. We took bids for basically removing what's in it. Got one bid. It was higher than we typically see for this type of work. And then subsequently, we were able to get into the digester and determined that we had about half as much material as we thought we did. So we felt the best course of action is to rebid this with the proper amount for material and try to get more bidders into the process. And we recommend approval.
I appreciate due diligence on staff at seeking the best bids on everything.
Mr. Chairman, a yes would be yes to reject. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Clarification. Any questions from the committee to staff?
Move for approval.
Got a motion?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston?
Yes.
Patrick Kale?
Yes.
Wayne Johnson?
Yes.
Ivory Van?
Yes.
Derek Reed?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Yes.
Jamie Stout?
Yes.
Mayor Coburn?
Yes.
Item number 6 passes to reject all bids. Item number 7.
Consider the appointment of Wayne Johnson to the Uniform Building Code Appeals Board, replacing the unexpired term of Kevin Crank beginning February 25, 2019, and ending April 30, 2021, or take other necessary action.
This is my item. I requested this to be put on the agenda. Typically, I don't want to serve on a whole lot of boards, but I had asked 4 people to serve on this board when I looked at the requirements of serving on this board. And I'd asked 4 people to serve on this board that I thought would do a good job on this, and they all let me know that they were too busy to serve on this board. And I looked at the requirements, and I feel like I could do a good job and fill in this position. So that would be my recommendation.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have you checked this gentleman out thoroughly?
I really don't want to dig too much in his background. I really don't.
You're going to do a great job, and I appreciate you helping.
I was going to try to be a little ornery tonight, but I thought I'd let Patrick do that.
It's been a long night, so I appreciate
We have a
you
motion
laying
and a
off.
second.
Yeah, I got a motion and a second.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Let's
Roll
vote.
call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston?
Yes.
Patrick Kale?
Yes.
Wayne Johnson?
Yes.
Ivory Van?
Yes.
Derek Reed?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Yes.
Jamie Stout?
Yes.
Mayor Coburn?
Yes.
That concludes all items on Public Works. We had no citizens wishing to speak tonight.
Mr.
Thank
Johnson, you mind if I be recognized to make an announcement?
you. No, for making an announcement, that'd be fine.
Okay. Friday at 1 o'clock at the Martin Luther King Center. It's a gentleman I buried at Booker T Cemetery. This is Black History Month. And his name was Faith McGinnis. And Dennis Wilhite, y'all know him. He's very instrumental in getting the sign put there by Booker T Cemetery. So we're going to celebrate that sign and have a ceremony at the King Center Friday at 1 o'clock. Faye McGinnis was one of the first Tuskegee Airmen in the program and was one of the first to get killed in the war. So he's very, like I say, he's very famous. So we'd like to invite everybody, all our citizens and the council and everybody up here and everybody in the audience to this celebration Friday at 1 o'clock at the Martin Luther King Center. Thank you, Ms. Johnson.